Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Okay, everybody, let me get this screen off here. Let me pull BK and I up. BK, how are you feeling? Obviously, tough game without a few of our key guys there for the Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic being one of them, out with personal reasons. And Aaron Gordon still dealing with the calf strain. But let's not forget, this Pelicans team was also pretty banged up tonight. Still found a way to make it competitive, still found a way to end up on top here, but neither one of these teams super healthy and or available tonight.
Yeah, here's my quick take on it. And Joker, I believe the personal reason is that baby number 2 is arriving any minute now. And
that's what I've heard through the grapevine.
So that's exciting. And then I don't think not having Michael Malone was the issue. And in fact, I applaud Michael Malone for, it says he has 2 daughters. One, I believe, is already playing college volleyball. This one, I believe, is also set to join her sister. I don't know if they're going to be at the same school, but and I think this one's going to North Carolina for sure. One's already there. They've been in the state tournament, the state, final weekend 6 straight years. And I don't know how many times he's had to miss a game one way or another. But not only did he stay back from the team last night, he trusted David Adelman, who is more than capable and on that short list of future head coaches, but he's trusted David Adelman to run the show. And I don't think David Adelman was the reason that the Nuggets lost. But my quick take on why they lost, 27% from 3 is an easy one, but 10 of 30.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But you only got 11 out of 35 from New Orleans, so that's a wash. It's kind of a simple equation or a simple notion, but we knew Joker wasn't going to be there. They knew Joker wasn't going to be there. Joker didn't miss too many games. He missed 3 games all of last year. We don't know how many he'll miss this year. Hopefully he only misses 1. Hopefully this is it. But he's missing the game. Don't know if he'll make it Sunday to Memphis or not, because don't know when the baby's actually arriving or any of that stuff. But the New Orleans Pelicans are banged up, and they're obviously without Zion Williamson, their most talented player. That's the norm. They're used to not having Zion. They're used to adjusting their lineup around who's in and who's not. And so for them, it's just Friday. For the Nuggets, it's
another
day without Joker.
Yeah, very different losses there. You make a really great point that, without Jokic, this team, we really don't see a lot of non-Jokic games. We've been very fortunate to have Nikola Jokic not only relatively healthy, but available a lot. And so, of course, for personal reasons. And like I said, I had never seen anything confirmed, but for sure had seen the rumor spreading throughout the rumor mill that he has baby number 2 on the way. So of course, that is a very legitimate, I, as a woman, can speak on the fact I don't have children, but would definitely love to have my partner there with me when I'm giving birth to our child. So can completely understand him missing this one. Again, this is one of those games that you may look at it and go, not the end of the world. It's the first game of the NBA Cup in group play. But you and I talk a lot about how, down the stretch, especially in the Western Conference, all of these games really do matter. Even if it's 10, 11, 12 games into the season, these losses, they do make a difference, and they will make a difference for this Nuggets team. We saw them at the end of last season, a game against the San Antonio Spurs that should have meant nothing, meant everything in terms of getting that 1 seed. And so every game is going to be important here. We've got Noah in the chat saying, yeah, this loss was a downer. And I think it was. I think, obviously, I tweeted something along the lines of like, the Nuggets just don't hit the same without Nikola Jokic. I think you really understand his greatness. Most Nuggets fans, and you and I who cover this Nuggets team and talk about the Nuggets on a very consistent basis, know and appreciate Nikola Jokic, and we know how important he is to this team. But I think even to non-Nuggets fans, you really don't understand his impact until you watch a game like tonight and you see how disheveled and chaotic this Nuggets team really appears. It's just 2 completely different teams when you don't have Nikola Jokic versus when you do. And to your point, the Pelicans, they're very familiar with Zion not being available for this team. They're almost more familiar with that than having him available.
Yeah, and well, I think we could look at that since he's gotten to the league and they've played however many games they've played. Have they played more or less with Zion? And of the available 82 games plus, I don't know if they've been to the playoffs beyond the play-in, and he was balling in that till he got hurt last year against the Lakers, or we would have seen the Lakers potentially. But I think that everyone really does have an appreciation for Joker, but what he does, use this analogy a little bit, or just compared it to when back in the day when I was working with Kenny Smith, he made the point that Shaq in Miami, the John Fox thing, a rising tide raises all boats. He's not the same one he's not the only person that said that, but he used to say that about Peyton all the time. When Joker's in the game, even if he's not in the game, when he's on the bench and available and playing that night, everyone looks over like, yeah, we've got a chance to win. We've got our version of Superman. And when he's not there, then it's like, okay, well, now what? Who's gonna carry the extra load tonight? And so if Joker were playing, they would have won this game probably by 10 points, because you look at what they did, minus the 3, although they would have gotten even cleaner looks.
Yeah,
And
they kept it competitive for the most part. Yeah.
kind of hit their averages. Obviously, Dario Saric played more than he's played this whole year, but and I don't think he was certainly the reason that they lost either. But
No.
just replace him with Joker, so he gets you 12 and 8 boards, 5 assists. So that's not even anything to feel bad about. And you'd love getting that off the bench. So maybe part of this sabbatical for Joker, if it's one game or a couple, means that you can find more useful ways for Saric. But you look at Julian Strawther, he only gives you 5 off the bench. Same with Russ.
Yeah.
He only 5 off the bench, goes 1 of 6, 1 of 4 from 3. And you can have bad nights. And I can't swear this is it, because it happened. They've had plenty of time in theory to recover, but they were in the Big Easy last night. I don't know if one person left their hotel room or did anything, but that is one of those cities like Miami, like Vegas, or I guess for hockey teams and soon to be baseball teams, not football teams because of how their curfews work. But Miami, oftentimes Chicago, New York, LA, you've got plenty of teams that think it's a home court advantage because of how cool their city is, and that players are going to take advantage of the nightlife in those cities. I'm not saying that
absolutely.
That could be a factor, may not be at all.
Yeah, absolutely. This comment here, Brandon Boston is better than Jamal Murray. How are we feeling about Jamal Murray? I mean, in these moments, I will say I was thankful for MPJ. I think that he was kind of keeping us afloat offensively in this one. And we've seen some, I don't want to call it progress from Michael Porter Jr., because I was very impressed with him in last year's playoffs. I felt like he was one of our most consistent offensive players. So I'm not going to say progress, but I think MPJ is playing with a little bit more confidence, and I can see that, and it translates, especially without Nikola Jokic. I thought MPJ looked really great without him. How did you feel like Jamal Murray looked without Nikola Jokic out there?
You just have to go inside the numbers, and I don't think he was getting bad looks, even the one late, and they showed it kind of on a replay if you're watching the game on altitude, that it's a good look and it just doesn't go in. And some nights that's the case, but when you have Joker to erase mistakes, if you will, you're gonna be okay with that. Now, he played the most minutes, logging 42 minutes, and 6 of 16 is not great at 37%, and then the 2 of 8 from 3, that falls in line with where the team was. But even Christian Brown, he's 1.5 points under his average, but he averages 16. Everyone's going to do better with Joker out there. I get that. I'm not ready to say Brandon Boston Jr. is better than Jamal, but
You're
you know
not
what?
there yet.
No, but what may help Jamal and the Nuggets, as I'm sitting here talking with you, getting ready for, well, at least I'm going to check out the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight.
Oh,
spectacle.
I'm so nervous for that, BK. I don't know why.
But what's the emotion?
So
Explain the nervousness to me. What are you nervous about?
Well, I just have to put out there very quickly. I don't enjoy watching grown men punch each other in the face.
I get that.
It's very barbaric, and I know there is absolutely, first of all, athleticism with this sport, and very much mental, like the mental toughness and the, it's a very mental game as much as it's physical. So I have the most respect for it, but it is so hard for me to watch. I just get so uncomfortable. And I also I don't know. I've kind of gotten sucked into the conspiracy theory narrative that Jake Paul, all of his fights are rigged or fixed in some capacity. I've totally bought into that. I really have. And I hate that, because I don't really have anything to prove that theory. I've just kind of bought into that because I don't watch the sport enough. And I just would hate to see Mike Tyson with the legacy that he's got be involved in a fixed or rigged match. I don't like that part of it, but I'm sure I will watch it. We have a very large television downstairs and we love sports, so I'm sure it will be on my TV, but
Cool
yeah, I'm not the
brag.
biggest fan.
Hey, you got a
What?
big TV. Congrats. Cool brag
No.
about your big TV. Fancy. Congrats.
That did come off very, very stupid.
Don't worry. I'm the guy
My
that more than
apologies.
once, certainly during a college football Saturday or the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, will show that I have 4 TVs in the basement all
As you
together.
should.
And then
As you should.
yeah, I mean, it's work. It's all work. And then we have a
Of course.
120
We
inch.
work in this industry. We've got to have a bigger TV
Yeah,
to watch what we're
120 inch pull down screen.
See?
With
There
the
you go.
projector. Yeah.
There you go.
I just
Love
don't
it.
go telling everybody about how big the TV is and all that.
Right. I did that. Yeah, that was a weird flex.
But so that was a weird way to get to here because I got the TV on and I was like, in my head, do I put on Netflix yet? I don't give a damn about any undercard. I'm sure it's great, whatever. Who cares? If you're a boxing fan, I just don't. But I do want to watch a fight. I saw a report out of Dallas that said he will not be in the ring until 9:00 our time. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. So you and I will be done talking Nuggets. But that was where I wanted to go because I have another NBA Cup game on because I'm all locked in on the NBA Cup, but wanted to see what was going on. ESPN has Warriors and Grizz for the 4th straight game. No Ja Morant, so we don't need to jump ahead completely. But when we look at Sunday, he's battling a hip issue. He was on crutches, seen on crutches in recent weeks. He hurt it November 6th, and it's now November 15th. He's missing his 4th straight game. There's a real scenario, whether Joker's there or not, that the Grizzlies' best player, Ja Morant, and I realize they're used to playing without him, but they didn't make the playoffs last year without him, that he doesn't go Sunday or perhaps even Sunday and Tuesday, as they'll play both those games down there in Memphis. So I guess up there technically from New Orleans because they have to travel north. But so as far as this game today, as you're watching it, Nuggets did a good job of cutting into that lead. They cut it to 3, but they could never get over that hump.
Right.
What would you attribute beyond just, or is it just as simple as poor shooting? Why do you think they were never able to really turn that corner, I guess, and retake the lead or take the lead?
I think how I see it is pretty simple. I mean, my philosophy. Whenever I joke about going in the Broncos locker room and being a coach for a day, it's pretty simple. Just do your job. And to put it even more simply in this situation, if you're not going to do one half of your job right, you better make it up in the second half of your job. And so if we're offensively going to be shooting, what did you say, 27% from 3? If we're going to be shooting,
that's not as good as 50. That's half as good.
Right. So if we're not going to shoot well from 3 like we have been, if all of our, if our bench is only producing, single digits per player, we're barely doing anything in our second unit. Jamal Murray not really showing up. I believe he had 5 points at halftime. So, if you're not going to do the offense part of your job, at least please do the defensive part of your job. I mean, we just don't have good looks defensively right now. We can't get stops from behind the 3-point line. Our perimeter defense is just going to be a problem when you're up against teams like this. The NBA is such a star-driven league. And so to me, it really is that, hey, there's 2 parts to this game. There's 2 parts to your job. You didn't do the offense, so at least do the defense. And I just felt like we were always 5 steps behind this team tonight because we weren't doing either job very well. And that's going to happen in this sport. You're not going to have perfect games from the 3-point line. We're not always going to shoot around 50% from 3. We're just not. That's just not realistic. But if we're not going to do that, we at least got to find some big defensive stops. I mean, Boston was shooting pretty nice from the 3. Brandon Ingram is a guy. Hello. You just can't ever count out a guy like Brandon Ingram. So I think that's for me what went the most wrong. It's like, yeah, you're going to have poor shooting nights. And I expected our offense to be slower and to not look as great without Nikola Jokic, of course. But defensively, if we can't figure out this defense, it does worry me for some of the teams that we're going to have to face because the Western Conference has got some shooters for real.
Well, and you mentioned Brandon Boston, but, the Boston Celtics, if you see them in the finals, and I like their chances as much as anyone, apologies to the Cavs to get there. We know they're going to shoot 40 plus threes a game, and that number could get even higher. But there are some simple numbers to look at. Oftentimes when you grab a box score, sometimes it doesn't always add up. But a couple things you're going to look at. So in the modern NBA, you're going to look at 3-point. You're going to look at 3-point shooting. You're going to look at turnovers? Was there a disparity there? But there's two simple numbers that really over the last 40 years you can look at, and the team that is ahead, if there's a noticeable margin, is often the team that's going to win a game. And two of those are very obvious: rebounding, 58-45. And when you look on the offensive glass for New Orleans, they had 17 offensive rebounds to the Nuggets 5. So that's a difference of 12 extra opportunities on their end that the Nuggets certainly didn't get. Those equal amount of opportunities. And then another one, as good as Nuggets have been at the line and over the first few weeks, for the most part, they're 10 of 11 a night. You'll take 90% all day and all night. But
of course,
the Pelicans were right there. They were 88.9%, but they took 7 more free throws, and the difference in the game was 7 points. It was 18 attempts, 16 makes. Those are very basic numbers that anyone that's going to grab a box score, didn't even watch a game, they're going to look at. They're going to look at 3-point shooting. They're going to look at rebounding. They're going to obviously look at and kind of see who was doing the scoring. They'll look at steals, turnover, but rebounding is very high on the list, and then free throws. And when you're being outshot by 7, and the Nuggets haven't been a great free throw shooting team historically, as Michael Malone pointed out post game, but they have been this year. And you take Joker out, and that's gonna change things for you as well. But that's incumbent on everyone else to attack the glass and not only create opportunities for offensive rebounds, but to get to the foul line.
Absolutely. Let's address this comment here. Do you worry about the future of, I want to talk specifically about Saric tonight, because this is the most we've seen him play so far in the regular season without Nikola Jokic tonight. I do feel that same type of like Reggie Jackson stress when Saric is out there, in terms of they do make some good plays and they can be reliable in moments, but there's a very chaotic style of play. To be honest with you, I feel that same chaos when Russell Westbrook sometimes has the ball. You know, you're just kind of like on the edge of your seat. Do you feel at all worried about the future of Dario Saric with this team?
No, because we'll see him mostly out there with Russell Westbrook, I think, when we do see him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is only like the 5th game he's played with these guys. I know they played obviously in preseason, but they're still feeling each other out. You know, he makes a really good pass to Michael Porter, and then MPJ gets called for a travel. It should have been maybe a bucket and a free throw, or at least free throws, but they call Mike for the travel. But that was a really good pass, and that's kind of one of those things I think being around Joker can have a beneficial effect, if you will, can kind of rub off on the players around him. And so Saric isn't going to be asked to play this many minutes too often, you wouldn't think, you know, right, assuming that Joker's healthy. So I think seeing him play, it kind of boils down to, depending on the type of team you're playing. If you're playing a bigger team, you're going to have to play bigger guys. So is that Saric? Is that DeAndre Jordan? You know, Memphis is a bigger team. They've got Zach Edey, among others, who's really big, the rookie out of Purdue, 2-time college player of the year. And so you're going to have to get some minutes there. Certainly if Joker's not playing, but I just want to see him play more with these guys. So you talk about kind of the frantic nature of his game. With Russ, that's always been who he is, and it's a kind of a controlled chaos. Yeah. And he's like, hey, I'm running. Y'all better come with me. Versus Saric, he's certainly not doing that. It's more, I think, him just needing to play more to understand this offense, because the train kind of kept going down the tracks, and he was still staying at the station for the last 4, 5, 6 games. And that's just how it's gone. But that means that guys have started to learn to work together a little bit differently. And I think it's just one of those things where if he's going to remain in the rotation, then he just has to play with them more. So I'm not overly concerned.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily concerned either. I think that's actually not true. I have expressed being concerned about Saric and not loving his play and not loving his minutes at all, because I feel like there is a pretty big decline when he's out there. However, you bring up a great point that kind of makes me do some reflection here, that I feel like I have to give the same patience to him that I did with Peyton Watson. And I have to use the same argument, which is Peyton Watson, in my opinion, last season had potential to be really great for this Nuggets team. But unless he was out there and was able to work through some of his mistakes and get real minutes in real games that really mattered, he wasn't going to get any better. And so maybe, to your point, this is a situation with Saric where the more he's out there, the more he gets opportunities against maybe some of the weaker opponents where you can afford to put him in there and not have Jokic on the floor. We might be able to see some growth and development right before our very eyes. I mean, we've certainly seen that with Peyton Watson getting more minutes with Aaron Gordon being out. So this comment here, coaching was horrifically bad, in all caps. Do you agree or do you disagree?
As I was watching the game and I didn't have the sound on, where Christmas decorations are going on above me. I guess holiday decorations. I don't want to shortchange minimal Hanukkah stuff that we'll have up, but it's mostly Christmas trees and a Christmas village that I'm going to make. Although there's a synagogue in our Christmas village, winter village, I guess. So I didn't have the sound on. I was watching the game, but when I was watching the game, I didn't notice that. So I guess you're gonna have to cite specific examples. The rotation was decided ahead of time. It wasn't like David Adelman's on there up there on the fly and doesn't have that entire staff. This is a staff that has been intact for a while. I get that they've had a change here or there. They know the way this team plays. They know what this team does well, and so unless there was an instance where David Adelman didn't challenge a play that he was supposed to, and I didn't see that, or make a weird substitution at a weird time, then I'm not going to put this loss on David Adelman as much as just they didn't make shots and they didn't get to the line and they didn't rebound. He can't do any of those things.
Yeah, I don't want to blame him either, but I do want to address this comment here. The Nuggets are one of the worst teams in the NBA without Jokic. Can we please not forget the fact that their head coach Malone was also not in attendance for this game, and Aaron Gordon was also not in this game. So it's not like it was just a Nikola Jokic thing. This is a team that's missing two of their most important guys in their starting lineup, as well as their head coach. And I'm not saying that, the backup for Coach Malone tonight was this horrible idea and he did a horrible job, but it's not like Jokic was the only missing piece tonight, and we also know this Nuggets team has had some rest this week. The last time that we saw them play was on Sunday, 5 days ago. And of course they've practiced and traveled and this, that, and the third, but rest doesn't always work well for teams. Some teams like to keep on moving with that momentum, and the Nuggets had a lot of momentum. And unfortunately, I think they lost some of that in their nearly week break from playing basketball. So I didn't expect them to look perfect tonight. Certainly not without Jokic, but double certainly not without their coach, Jokic, Aaron Gordon, and a week of rest that kind of killed their momentum, in my opinion. So Jokic was not the only thing missing tonight for this Nuggets team. We just have to
I think you're right. And I think the time off, while it was needed, and for Joker, he's going to get even a couple more days off. Obviously, if he does play Sunday, that'll be the next time he plays. And again, not knowing everyone's travel plans, but the state volleyball finals are tomorrow. So we know that, and I don't know what time they're at. I guess we could look that up. Don't know if that means that there's a charter plane waiting for both of them. Is Stan and Josh paying for it? Does Joker lean into that $60 million a year and say, hey, no big deal.
I would.
We can get a private jet gassed up and ready to go down there at Centennial. And so I think that, we'll see how it plays out here in the next day or two, in terms of just logistics. Not that we're that concerned with it, but the point about them having time off, it's something that Michael Malone touched on Thursday, not Wednesday, but Thursday. Something Christian Brown touched on Wednesday following practice, that they were in a rhythm. And so there's an acknowledgement that not just Joker, but any of your veteran players, throw Russell Westbrook in there, Jamal Murray for that matter, MPJ, a couple extra days is ultimately going to be a good thing wherever you can get it. And if the sacrifice is that there's more rust because of the rest, and that's why they shot the way they did. Also, they played 5 straight games at home. And I understand that the thin air doesn't really change much in terms of basketball, but it's still a different environment going to an arena that's below sea level. So, and that's what you're dealing with there in New Orleans, or right at sea level. But we know how, obviously, going back to our Hurricane Katrina, not history lesson, weather lesson about why flooding was such a huge problem there in the Big Easy, is because they're below sea level. And so there's an adjustment on all of it. You're not going to go undefeated. You're not going to win every game. A 5-game win streak would have been cooler to get to 6. But now you just start, hopefully, what is a new win streak? And they're going to be at home a bunch, and they've still got some tough teams coming in. They got to go to the Lakers a week from tomorrow. But that's kind of the up and down nature of the season.
Of course.
We are going to keep harping on where they
Well,
lose a
that's the
game.
nature of the Nuggets in the middle of a game, ups and downs. We see it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they were
No, you're
up.
right.
They were only down by 5 at halftime, and honestly, I found myself sitting there feeling relieved. I'm like, okay, it's only 5 points without Nikola Jokic. We've seen worse before, but I mean, every quarter, I feel like you get a different version of this Nuggets team. So to your point, the ups and downs of the season, yes, but also just the ups and downs of this team through 4 quarters feels very like I get kind of nauseous riding the roller coaster ride a little bit.
And I think that's the other part of living and dying with, I say living and dying, covering a team and covering them every game and through every quarter, or watching a team as a fan that isn't just jumping on Christmas Day when they play in Phoenix, or isn't just waiting until after football season ends in February to start watching the Nuggets a little more closely. And here's the thing too, I'm not picking on anybody, but the reality is they haven't been on Comcast for 4 or 5 years. So in addition to not paying attention because of just the calendar,
right,
people still can't watch every game and aren't watching every game and don't have, their habits have changed in those 4 or 5 years. So they're not thinking about watching every game. If you do watch kind of every game of any team in any sport, you're going to have to ride that wave. It's a question of how bad is this loss? And we won't know the answer to that until April, and where we find out where the Pelicans finish. If the Pelicans go on a run and they're battling for a 4, 5, 6 seed, then it's not as bad a loss. If they're the 12th seed this year, Zion never makes it back, they don't even get into the play-in tournament, then it's a bad loss, and you have to make up for it. Like we've talked about, the Clippers loss you can stomach if they're a playoff team. The opener against the Thunder, they may end up being the best team in the West.
right.
But as you go through each loss, the Timberwolves won. Right now, they're well out of playoff contention, or playoff seeding, I guess. Sorry, everybody's in contention. That one's going to hurt more, even though that's who you lost to in the playoffs last year. So it's kind of just that weird. It's not even an equation. It's just it's like a pulley system. So you have to just kind of ride the ups and downs.
Well, and two, I mean, just like you're kind of touching on it a little bit, but I've seen bad teams beat good teams all the time. There's just some nights where it's just a bad night, or there's injuries. And again, this is such a star-driven league that you have a bad night from Jamal Murray, which seems to be, a little bit more common than we'd like, but you get a bad night from Jamal Murray, it's a very different Nuggets team. You get a bad night from MPJ, it's a very different Nuggets team. But on the topic of MPJ, he has looked great. I've been very pleased with him. I'm loving watching him play. And to answer this question here, yes, the answer is yes. I think that rightfully so, this Nuggets team is looking at how much they just paid Jamal Murray and knowing that they need to use him, right? We know Coach Malone is not above benching a starter for a bench guy. If we needed Russell Westbrook to start, I don't think that Coach Malone would have a single problem with making that happen. However, when you look at what you just paid Jamal Murray, you want to use Jamal Murray. You want Jamal to be running the offense when he's on the floor. That's why he's got a max contract. That's his job. That's his role, especially without Nikola Jokic out there. So, yes, I do think that MPJ should have had the ball in his hands a whole lot more in this game, because to me, he was the only person that was keeping us afloat, keeping our heads above water. But I think naturally the Nuggets want to use the guy they just paid that they know can be really great. And we've seen little Nuggets, in his first game back after his concussion, he looked the best he's looked so far this season. But yeah, I would love to see MPJ used more, certainly with the ball in his hands more, because when he gets that, and we know this about MPJ, if I could give one piece of advice to anybody that is, either betting or doesn't consistently watch the Nuggets and wants to start to, and you're like, tell me a little bit about this team. One thing I will tell you is whether they're falling or not, MPJ will take the 3-point shot. If you could bet on 3-point attempts in the NBA, I would hammer MPJ's over every single game. But the best part about it is when his threes do fall, he gets this confidence about him. He plays more aggressive on both sides of the floor. So yeah, I would have loved to see the ball in MPJ's hands a little bit more. He was the most consistent one that kind of kept the Nuggets in this game offensively. And defensively, we also know he can make some really big defensive stops, and he plays really tough defense. So BK, what do you feel about that? You think that MPJ should have had some more touches in this one?
Probably so, and I guess we'll have to see what the advanced metrics look like in terms of usage rate and where the ball went, because we know when Joker, not only is Joker touched the ball more than anyone on the Nuggets. He has the ball in his hands more than anyone in the league by like 500 touches or whatever. The difference is, you go back to one of your favorite players of all time, somebody like Carmelo Anthony or James Harden, or at times Russ, the amount of time that they have the ball, or Luka right now, and it doesn't always move. Whereas with Joker, he touches the ball, but it's almost always moving. Not that he's not also part of making a move to the basket or whatever it may be, but the ball is kind of constantly moving in that respect. And so with MPJ tonight specifically, and no Joker and no AG, I think they should have probably run more offense for him. And we've seen he's shown it certainly at home. You say, oh, well, not only not run offense for him, he can't go get his own shot. Not the way maybe a Jamal Murray or Russell Westbrook can get their own shot, or Julian Strawther for that matter, and even CB attacking the glass. But MPJ, especially in that mid-range, can get his own shot. And I think if he sees the opportunity, could get to the rack a little more when it's called for. But we talked about it yesterday that he was under the weather, told us he was under the weather. Like, okay, what are we going to get? Well, you got the best. Yeah, but you got the best performance of anyone, even under the weather. And I remember going back to when you and I were there for the shoot around before the opener, and he talked about knowing he can do more, even in the construct of this offense or confines of this offense. And he's right, he can. You just have to capitalize on those opportunities. Tonight would have been, and he did do plenty, but a chance to do even more, maybe get a 35-point kind of game. Look, if 2 more shots fall, it's a 1-point game, and who knows how things shake out on the other end if he makes 2 more threes. Not that he didn't obviously shoot it really well, but just has to take more in that respect. But I think you have to be happy with what you've gotten from MPJ to this point. It's also, he's just a fascinating case study, because there's only been a handful of guys, and you could do it every year, about 3 guys a year. And it's not always the same every year because of the international players, but guys that were the man in AAU, are the top recruited player in the country, one of the top 2 or 3, and are projected to be number 1 after their single year in college. And MPJ was on that track, a guy that people knew who he was from 8th grade on. And he goes to Missouri, and his dad's a coach there, and his aunt's a coach there, and all of that. And then he gets hurt 3 games in, or 1 game in. If the first 2 games were not even regulation games, they were preseason games. And so I think he struggles with the idea that there's a different world where he's doing what Brandon Ingram does every night, or pick a player on a team where the offense runs through him versus the offense comes to him. And so it would have been easy to get him the ball a little bit more, or get him involved a little more. So I guess if you want to be critical of David Adelman, if he's not calling the right sets to get him the ball, maybe that's a fair criticism. But I don't know their offensive calls enough to put that on him yet. And so I guess, we can do a little digging on that. But I think all in all, you have to be happy with what you got from MPJ. Could you have used a little more? Sure. But I think he was not the reason they lost tonight.
No, I agree. This comment here is kind of addressing the body language of the Denver Nuggets. And that seems like such a silly thing to address. But truly, if you consistently watch this Nuggets team, you can absolutely tell when their body language is not giving that of, and we're knocking over hats. Okay. You can absolutely tell when body language is not giving that of wanting to win, or feeling motivated, or feeling very competitive. But you know what? I think more than that, I don't want to say that the Nuggets seemed uninterested, or played lazy, or played slow and tired in the fourth. Again, I think that the momentum that they were building off of got ripped away from them in this long time off. And for some teams, they pray for moments where they have multiple days off. And I think that the Nuggets probably did want it physically. But I do think mentally, it kind of does feel like a drag when you have too much time away from the game and from practice and your routine even. But I also think that this just speaks to the energy that, even if Nikola Jokic has a very cool, calm demeanor about him that we've talked about many times on this show, he does bring an energy to this team and to this offense that is just, you've just got to watch it in order to understand it. And I think most of the people in this chat and in this comment section that are interacting with us here have watched it and have understood it. But it really does speak to what the MVP is, right? MVP, most valuable player. Nikola Jokic absolutely brings value to this team, not just from a game standpoint, but also I think an energy standpoint. So for me, that's kind of more what I noticed. It was less about them, not seeming hungry for it or whatever. It was just the team looks so different without the MVP on their side.
And even with his calm exterior, if you will, we certainly see him get fired up, but there is an intensity and there is
Very.
an expectation, a demand of everyone needs to match what he's doing. I understand they can't necessarily match the way he sees the game, but there aren't too many wasted possessions or empty possessions with him. And you have to be ready because he'll see something or he'll see somebody leaking out and he'll throw you the ball. So you better be ready at any point. We saw it a couple games ago at home. I want to say it was in the first game back where maybe against the Raptors where he throws that pass to Peyton Watson that goes right through his hands and legs. And Peyton's like, oh, I wish it would have been a split second later. Joker owned that and said, oh, that's on me. But Peyton knows that might be coming. So when he's saying he wishes it was a split second later, it's because he's talking to MPJ, as he said. He goes, I was talking to MPJ. I wish it was a split second later, but not, oh, that's on Joker to hold it a split second later. It's more, I just was trying to get this accomplished. He sees me. He's right. He's not going to make that wrong pass. We know that every now and then he'll throw one away. He tried to throw a cross-court pass the other day down the entire court late in the game when they didn't need it, and that got knocked away. So I think that you're right about the way they're going to play with or without Joker from an intensity standpoint. But Russell Westbrook should mitigate some of that, and tonight it wasn't enough.
Yeah, it just wasn't enough. Really quickly before we get out of here, because I know that Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight's going to be starting here soon. Ugh, I don't even know if I can turn it on. It makes me just so sick. I don't know what it is. I just get so nervous. It just freaks me out. But that's neither here nor there.
Are you nervous for somebody or just in general?
I think I'm nervous for Tyson.
Oh, well, he is 58, so that's
why. That's it. It's like, I know he is I always call these athletes that are just like, you don't even know how to describe them as freaks of nature. And I don't ever mean that in an offensive way, but it's just like, how else do you describe Mike Tyson? He just in his prime was a freak of nature, truly. So it's not that I underestimate his skill, his talent, his strength, his preparation, his whatever, his training. He's just old, like it's very impressive what he's doing at this age. And Jake Paul is not old, he's on the younger side of things and his body can probably bounce back a little quicker than Mike Tyson. So yeah, maybe I'm nervous for the 58-year-old legend that I just don't want to see him go down too hard or be embarrassed or whatever. But
speaking of embarrassed, I don't know if he's going to be embarrassed as they're about to bring them into the ring here in a few minutes. So we need to get rolling, but so people can go watch that. If you go on Twitter, he did a little quick pre-fight interview and then turns away and he's got his kind of front protector on. There's a great shot. If you want to see what Mike Tyson's butt cheeks look like, he's wearing basically his jock strap, turns around and walks away. Netflix caught him. So he's mooning all of the world unintentionally. He was just walking back into the other side. Locker room probably put his trunks on. My 18-year-old who has no concept of really anything related to boxing and all that. He goes, Jake Paul's going to win and he's going to be world champion. I was like, world champion of what? I said, I don't understand.
Well, did you see the comment Jake Paul made saying like he could beat Mike Tyson in any era of Mike Tyson's career?
That's insane.
I was like, this guy is
if they would drug test him and put him in against Tyson Fury or whoever who's holding or Fury's brother, whoever's got the belt now or any of the belts, he would get destroyed. He's fighting MMA guys past their prime and now a 58-year-old. But no, I'm pulling for Mike. And so I think it's going to still be fun to watch. Just like hanging out with you, talking Nuggets. Hopefully it's been fun for our great, friends and followers here at Guerilla Sports hanging out with us on this post-game live. And you and I will be back on Sunday after we talk a little Broncos. We'll keep an eye on the Nuggets and Grizz and bring you that post-game live as well.
Absolutely. We will be back Sunday. And actually, we'll probably have a little bit of time to kill between our Broncos show and our Nuggets show. So maybe we can hop on, do a little bit of an in-studio live even before the Nuggets and Grizzlies tip off. If we've got any hot takes or strong opinions, or, we might just do a selfie style video. Either way, you guys know we'll have you covered on all things Denver Nuggets all season long. It's a long season, so bear with us. I mean, right now we've got like 2,400 people live watching and hanging out with us here, BK. So we appreciate you guys more
Thank
than
you.
know.
Thanks, media critic. I can fake my way through a little boxing talk.
No,
but
BK is one of the smartest sports people I've ever met. So yes, he does know boxing, and he knows most of the time he knows things that I'm like, how do you even know that? But he does. He seems to know it, and it's great. But yeah, we'll keep you guys posted on all things Denver Nuggets and as well as Broncos. BK and I tag team in the football, basketball world this year. So you know what that means. We're super busy. I'm sure we'll drive each other crazy by the end of the season, but it'll be fun.
No
and
way.
you guys, no way, never that. But we'll keep you guys posted on all things Denver Nuggets. Tough loss tonight for the Nuggets, but hopefully we will have Jokic back on Sunday against the Grizzlies. And hopefully, if the rumors are true, I'm just going to keep saying if, and Jokic is bringing another baby into the world tonight, I am hoping for a happy, healthy baby, a smooth delivery for his wife, and all the best to him, as well as best of luck to Coach Malone's daughter as she hopefully keeps pushing through the ball. I don't know. Did Vista win tonight? Do they play tonight?
They play tomorrow. You got high school
Okay.
football playoffs going on tonight, maybe some even tomorrow. But no, they play tomorrow.
Amazing. So best wishes to all Nuggets Nation as well as the Nuggets team. Hopefully they can shake this one off, bounce back, and steal some wins on the road here. They've got a little bit of a road game stretch here. So hopefully we bounce back against the Memphis Grizzlies team that, again, is another, pretty solid team in the Western Conference. So it'll be a test, but hopefully they can manage. So thank you guys so much. This has been another episode of Off Court, a post-game live reaction show to the New Orleans Pelicans against the Denver Nuggets. We'll be back again Sunday following the Grizzlies Nuggets showdown. We'll see you then. Thanks for hanging with us. BK, any final thoughts, or are you ready to get out of here?
No, I think that I like their chances to bounce back against Memphis, especially with no Ja Morant. Keeping a quick peek, they're down by 9 in the Bay playing the Warriors, and they are 3 of 19 from behind the arc to start the game. So I'm not sure the Grizz are going to beat the Nuggets from the outside if that keeps
good.
up. So it'll be fun, and hopefully Joker's back, and we know Coach Malone will be back. So that'll be good to see them hopefully get a bounce back when they're going to play 2 games in a row in Memphis. But we'll have you covered here as we always do.
Yep. Thanks you guys for tuning in tonight. Sending you all of our love. We'll be back again very soon. Make sure you're tuning into all things Guerilla Sports and off court and off field. BK and I taking both of those things on this season. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you Sunday. Bye.